Hello, welcome to Beyond Belief Sobriety, and this is a podcast and community and live stream. As some of you might know, who are regulars for people who are seeking a secular path to recovery from addictions of all kinds. And I already see there's 3 people in the room right now, and I know that more will be coming in. Hello, Dale. It's good to see you. So I'm flying solo today. I do not have Mary. Hey, Bobbert, how are you? And now we've got 7 people in the room. I'm always so excited to see people come in. Anyway, yeah, Mary won't be here today. She, as part of her job, had spent the entire night with a client who had fallen, an 89-year-old client, and she didn't get any sleep. So she's going to be taking it easy today. And so I'll be depending on you guys for a conversation around this topic, which I think is pretty interesting. Hey, Barb, good to see you. The idea for this came from an email that I received from Andy B. And Andy B is actually living in China, which I think is cool to have people from all over the world listening to this podcast and live stream. But they said that they were answering calls for their central office. Actually, she's in OA, that they are in OA. And they were answering calls, and she got a call from someone who said that their sponsor didn't think that they were using OA language. And this really hurt this person because they didn't really know. They were fairly new. They weren't quite comfortable with their recovery or their commitment to it. And to be told that they weren't speaking the right language was unsettling. And so anyway, so Andy B had listened to an episode that we had done earlier about the language of recovery, and they thought that this would be a great topic. So what I did is a little bit of research. I've got some articles. The main one that I think I'll be relying on for our conversation is from Seacrest Recovery, and it's the title of the article is "Why is Alcoholics Anonymous so cliquey?" And I want to say from the outset that this isn't intended to be critical of AA at all. I'm not really critical of any mutual support group for addiction. I mean, whatever works for a particular person is great. There are probably flaws or good things or bad things about every program. And I think that AA is unique that because it's been around for so long, and it does have like a subculture, and that can present problems to somebody who is new to the rooms. And the first thing they have to do is navigate this language that they're hearing. And that can sometimes be difficult. So I thought this might be an interesting conversation. You know, this probably pertains not just to AA or OA or any of the 12-step programs, but maybe just in recovery in general. You know, that maybe we should kind of speak the way that we spoke before we ever got into recovery. You know, I don't know. So that's what we're going to talk about. Before we get into that, though, I do want to acknowledge something. First of all, let me say hello to LaDawn and Jay, and I think I already said hello to Barb. Good to see y'all there. But I do want to acknowledge something that's kind of special for me. That was September 13th of 2015 that I released the first episode for this podcast. And at that time, it was called AA Beyond Belief. And so it's been 7 years, and that's pretty amazing. You know, when I started this thing, I didn't know where it would go. And looking back on the past episodes, I can see a lot of evolution within me and my recovery and how I feel about it. And a lot of that came from people who listen, who have communicated with me, or guests that I've had on the podcast have really helped educate me and helped me grow as a human being. So that's been a great experience. I'm really grateful for it. I was kind of reading through and I rarely do this, but I was reading through some of the reviews that people gave me on iTunes. And it's really humbling that people have such, that they find value in this. You know, the most recent review that someone gave me was from August 24th. And She said, love, love, love. I was very slow to finding real recovery because I couldn't identify solely with any one program. I love this podcast for showing there are many ways to recovery. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and the host has what it takes. Thank you to the host. And thank you. Thank you for saying that. I often don't know what to do with compliments, but the best thing to do is to say thank you. I sometimes wonder what the heck is going on with how can I possibly be doing this? But I'm glad that the person recognizes that this is what the podcast is about. It's about exploring all kinds of different secular modes to recovery. So anyway, gosh, we already got some comments coming in there, and let me pop some of those up there real quick. LaDon says, I agree, it does. I actually went through that being questioned and judged because I didn't use the sayings or believe in some of their ways of doing things. Mm-hmm. And then Bobbert says, what is the name of the tune you opened the original podcast? Sort of jazzy. I will try to find that. It's funny that you like that, I guess. I thought it, I don't know about it. I listened to some of those early episodes and some of the music that I use, and I'm like, what was I thinking? But it was like some kind of techno jazz or something. I'll go back and see if I can find it. I know that I purchased it from one of these places that, you know, have like music that is unlicensed music that you're allowed to use. So I'll see if I can find it, Bobbert, and see if I can get it to you. But yeah, that was kind of a jazzy tune. I don't know what I was thinking. Anyway, I'm glad that you liked it if you did. Okay. So maybe we should dig into the topic. I'm going to go ahead and put the phone number up here because I think I'm going to really need you to call me with your comments because it's not, I don't often do solo episodes, and I don't think I've ever done a live stream by myself. So I'll definitely rely on your comments in the live chat and also your phone call. So please do feel free to call at 844-899-8278. And Mazzy says that I hear the exact same lingo in MLM schemes. Oh, MLM. What is that? That's some kind of marketing thing, isn't it? Okay. Anyway, let's go ahead. I'm going to go ahead and start reading this article. There's actually two articles that I dug up. One of them is called Why is Alcoholics Anonymous So Cliquey? And again, this is not to be critical of AA, but this is what we're going to kind of talk about. And then the other one is AA's male culture, which I think also has a lot to do with what is a problematic thing. And it's problematic for both men and women that the program came up at a time when I guess it's still kind of that way. Men thought they were in charge of everything, I guess, and the language of the in the literature early on was not really kind to women at all. I mean, really treated them as like second class citizens and just people that just are just lucky to be in recovery and that lucky that their husbands are in recovery and all that kind of stuff. So we'll talk about that too, and why I think it's bad for both men and women. That we have that going on. But let's start with the first article. I'm just going to kind of read through it. I'll go ahead and put a link to it here in the show notes for you. Here we go. And we've got 19 people here right now. That is just amazing. So thank you all for supporting this live stream by participating like that. I'm really grateful for that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and read this article. Maybe I'll do a screen share so you can actually see it as I read it. Let me do that real quick. I'm going to share the screen. I'm going to share that. And there we go. And there we go. I don't know how much of that you're going to be able to see. A lot of you don't even actually look at the video. You're just kind of kicking back and listening, which I think is cool too. I find that actually happening more and more with YouTube. And I use YouTube the same way. I listen more than I watch. Anyway, here we go. Why is Alcoholics Anonymous so cliquey? Inevitably, someone who is considering the steps necessary to achieve a life of sobriety will encounter groups based on a model promulgated, I don't know if I pronounced that right, by Alcoholics Anonymous. Despite their anonymity, AA is undoubtedly the most famous group meeting organization in the United States. Cultural icons such as Robert Ebert and Owen Wilson have both been members at one time. Yet many individuals who attend AA meetings for the first time can feel uncomfortable with the proceedings that they encounter. This partly is down to the cliquey feel that many AA groups seem to have regardless of their location. To understand why Alcoholics Anonymous is like this, it's important to consider what AA does and how it does it. So here we go. Firstly, Alcoholics Anonymous gives many people a cliquey impression because there is a certain amount of one-upmanship present in any organization where seniority is respected and even celebrated. Anyone who has read about the culture of the military knows this to be true. To wit, there will always be someone with more life experience than other members at any given AA meeting. This person may have been addicted to substances for longer than other members. They have been in recovery for longer than other members. They may have lost more in life than other members. They may simply be older and more experienced than other members. So that I thought that was interesting too. I've had conversations with people about the idea of, counting years and celebrating, and how there seems to be within the culture of 12-step fellowships this idea that the longer that you've been in recovery, that I guess the more weight your words might carry. And I don't think that that's always true. I had a conversation with somebody yesterday that was talking about that with me. They happen to be in LifeRing. And, I know for sure that Smart Recovery doesn't really stress the amount of time so much. They look more at where you are in the process of change. And I was talking to this person from LifeRing, and I'm going to be investigating LifeRing more often, more in the future, but they also don't seem to put a lot of emphasis on the stories, the personal stories, or the amount of time that one has been sober. And I do think that this is somewhat problematic for both the person who has been around for a long time as well as someone who is new. First of all, I don't think that the amount of time that I've been sober has anything to do with how I might be able to help somebody or the quality of my life at all. Just being around for a long time, I guess I've learned a few things, but I learn just as much from people that are way younger than me. And I like being around a diverse group of people and listening and learning from them. As someone who has been around for a long time, I'm somewhat sometimes hesitant to share in meetings because a lot of my experience when it comes to the drinking part, I guess, is so ancient, and I think unrelatable. And I also am not comfortable if someone thinks that just because I've been sober for a long time that I have any special knowledge or, I'm not, there's nothing other than I just haven't died. I've been sober and I haven't died. That's really basically all that has happened. And I've learned because like we all learn, but there's a lot of people that are much younger than me, both in terms of how long they've been in recovery and on the planet. And they know a lot more than I do and are better, more even keeled than I am. So there you go. Let's take a look at, LaDawn says that, she's been attending LifeRing meetings and she likes them. LaDawn, I promise I'm going to start doing this. I really want to do this. I had a really nice conversation with somebody from LifeRing for an episode that I'll be posting in October. And so I think he's like the third person I've talked to from LifeRing, and they have grown so much since COVID because they're online, and they're accessible. And he told me that one of the reasons that so many people are flocking to LifeRing is because it is secular. And that doesn't mean that the people that are going there are necessarily non-believers. They just don't want that complication, in the recovery process. And that's another big thing about AA culture, obviously, is that religious part. So I don't know if you guys have any thoughts about the culture surrounding time in recovery, the old timers, how the old timers are revered, how maybe even the founders are revered. This focus on time and the past as being somewhat uplifting of an individual person. If you have any thoughts about that, I'd love to hear. I do think that it can be taken to a little bit too far at times. So Jay Monty says, I don't want to intrude on what someone's going through. Yeah, so that's why I see what you're saying, Jay. Jay also doesn't share that often in meetings because they don't want to intrude on what someone is going through. And I'm kind of like that too. I guess I'm more respectful of the person who is just starting out and is having a lot of crises in their life. And I'm kind of there for them and the best way I can, I suppose. And there's really nothing from my story that is that pertinent. I think the best thing that I can do for someone who's new in recovery is just be there to show that yes, I'm sober, I'm in recovery, and also to let people know that there are many paths that you can take, and the best path is the path that works for you. Oh, good, we got a call coming in from Richmond, Virginia, and let's see who this is. I'm thinking it might be Fred, but we'll find out. Hello, Richmond, Virginia. How you doing?
Hello.
Fred, how are you?
Hello, John. Yeah, let me ask you, what's the topic?
All right, Fred, I think you've got your computer on with the live stream going because I'm picking up an echo. Can you turn your volume down on the computer so I'm not hearing the live stream?
Sure.
Okay. This is what happens on radio. It's okay. It happens on radio shows too. People will call in and they got their radio on.
Let me ask you, is the topic "Am I in my own way"?
Is it what?
Is the topic "Am I in my own way"?
Oh no! Well, it could kind of be. The topic is really about the culture surrounding 12-step fellowships. And is it a problem? Can it be a problem? For example, the lingo that we use in 12-step fellowships, does it give people the idea that they're on the outside, that they don't really understand? They have to kind of figure out what the hell we're talking about. Should we kind of tone that down, at least when someone is new, to speak the way that maybe they would talk? All the other cultural phenomena that go on in 12-step programs, like this emphasis, for example, that we just talked about on time that a person's been sober, or even some of the religious stuff that we have drawn from the literature, or the patriarchal way that AA was set up, for example. All those things that make up the culture of 12 steps. Is it problematic? Should we be talking about it? Do you have any thoughts about that, Fred?
I do. I have a lot of thoughts on stuff like that. I had a separation and I had children and I had all these things. And, I think that old song, you say you like old songs a lot. Well, if you could sleep nights to stop your crying, then you might find out I still love you in my own way. If that's not enough, then I'm so sorry I met you. It was almost like leading you on, but there's more to it all than just wringing your heart out over something.
Mm-hmm.
That keeps on going wrong. So don't tell me you love me. How am I supposed to know what that means? No, don't sell emotion. You can't find devotion if you're falling apart at the seams. I hope that you smile when you reach your conclusion. I hope you'll just know what to say. But if you should mean that the party's over, then you should know I still love you in my own way. That's an old Marshall Tucker song back in the day. And the meaning then was like the lingo at the time that you talked about that doesn't really go with, the way things are in this day, because you learn stuff and it doesn't seem to really matter anymore what you learned back in the day, because the times have changed so much, and the attitudes, the culture, the divisions, the separations, all the things that happen. It's like you have to have that inside job to make it stick no matter what it is. You have to follow through to the end, whatever it is that you really feel good about. And if sobriety is the ticket, or trying to lose weight, or all the things that, people have problems with, drug abuse, or whatever the addiction may be, well, that's what they got to stick with if that's how they want to change and transform or shift into another way of living.
Right.
And sometimes you just can't do it with the person that you love if they don't love you. So, there's plenty of things to learn from. And when people, point one finger of blame, three are pointing back at you. So if you're blaming somebody,
right.
So if you think the problem is yours, and you're blaming somebody else, but you can't see your own problems, then all it is making people sad.
Yeah. Something you said, Fred, something you said that I want to focus on, and I think I'll let you off the phone so that maybe someone else can call in. But something I want to focus on that you talked about is how we evolve, so that, whatever we learned, that the times change, and we as individuals in recovery most likely evolve and change as well. But it seems that the 12-step fellowship program doesn't evolve. And I'm not trying to be too critical, but it stuck like in the 1940s, which isn't a great, place maybe that one should want to be, when you consider about how minorities were treated in the 1940s, how women were treated in the 1940s, and just the knowledge that we had at that time, was limited compared to what we have now. And I think that contributes to the culture of the 12-step fellowships, because they're so tied into that literature, and it's all. And when I say literature, I'm talking about the big book. They're really tied into that. And that, I think, is somewhat problematic when it comes to the culture of AA and 12-step fellowships in general. But Fred, I want to thank you for calling. I really do appreciate it. It's been nice talking to you. The last couple of years we've been doing this live stream. It's super that you take the time to call. And I thank you very, very much for that.
Oh, you're quite welcome. Can I add one thing before you let me off?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. I'd like to say I discovered something about myself that really helped me.
What's that?
And that forgiveness means you don't want to hurt anybody anymore. And that, I can understand the 40s, but we're in 2020.
Yeah.
Too. And cultural differences, and the way things change, you just have to be resilient to adaptation to new ideas, and develop a resilience. I listened last week's show, and you were talking about Carl Jung, and Mary was talking about Carl Jung, and number 3 who went to see Carl Jung all the way in Switzerland. Carl Jung didn't do anything for him but tell him he was chronic.
Right.
So if he was chronic, Carl Jung couldn't help him. Plus, Carl Jung wasn't an alcoholic.
Yep.
So Jungianism really doesn't fit the program either.
And I guess that also lends into the culture. So Fred, I'm going to go ahead and move on now to some of the comments that we have. We've got a lot of comments flowing in the live chat. Sure, I want to get to those before I run out of time. But thank you so much for calling. I really do appreciate it. You have a nice day over there.
Thanks, Tom. You have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. So yeah, there's a lot of comments going on. One, Bobbert says that time is important because it gives a newcomer hope that it's possible to stay sober, and I can see that as well. I mean, there's certainly something to be said about that. I kind of remember though when I was like really new. I mean, in the first few months, I I don't know. I felt like the people that had a lot of time couldn't. I felt like they already solved their problem, that they that they really couldn't relate to what I was dealing with in that particular moment because their problems were from so long ago. And I guess I was looking at the perspective of a younger person and these older people being helpful, I guess, but they had already kind of, but I know what you're saying. I got hope from it. I got hope from it, but at the same time, it also helped me to be with people that were real peers, that were people in my own age group who were in the same place in their recovery as I was. And I was just really lucky that I found that at my first group, a bunch of guys in their 20s, early 30s that hung together. And I was fortunate with that. So, and we were all kind of like in our first year of sobriety as well. Dale says that he and in the beginning looked up to old timers, always wanted to hear what they said. Now that he is one, I prefer to listen to newcomers and their fresh perspective. I am totally the same way, Dale. I totally am. And you know what I find funny? This is me, I guess, but except for when it comes to the podcast where I have to talk a lot, but generally in a meeting, I don't really have a lot. I mean, the longer that I've been sober, it seems the less I have to say. And the younger I was in sobriety, the more I would have to say. So I find that interesting. Okay, we got a call from Mary from Little Rock. How nice. Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for calling.
Okay, we got a call from Mary from Little Rock.
Okay.
Hi, I've got you on.
Hi, Mary. Thank you so much for calling.
You got to turn off.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, but you got to turn off your computer so I don't hear.
Okay, let me.
Okay.
Let me. Is it better now? Can you hear me?
Now I hear you.
Is it better now?
Yep.
Okay. Yes, I live in Little Rock, Arkansas, and of course this is down south, and
It is.
it's really God heavy, as I posted on my comment. Yes, and we don't have anything like Smart Recovery or Life Ring here. So I started my own secular group, and we have a few people that come regularly, but not a whole lot. You know, it's hard to get the word out. I mean, I tried to put up a flyer at traditional recovery meetings, and they kept taking them down because we didn't follow the 12 steps, you know, as written in the big book. And pardon my, I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss on
You
this,
can
but
cuss.
pardon my,
Yes, you can.
you know what expression. Okay. Well, that's fucking bullshit.
It
I mean,
is.
I love John Dewey because he just speaks like, I mean, I love his militant atheist.
I'm
point of
glad you
view.
do. So people
But,
either love or
like-
hate him. That's just there's no middle ground with him.
Oh, no. Oh, listen, I love it. He speaks his mind, and I love it.
Okay.
So, yeah. So then giving the newcomer hope, I think Bobbert said that. And, you know, I see so many newcomers come through the door and leave out again, and they never come back. And a few of them have told me, I can't do the God thing. I can't do the God thing. And I feel for them. You know, I mean, the fucking book was written in 1939.
Yeah, it
Come
was.
on, give me a break.
It was.
We have so much more knowledge about addiction issues now than we did back then, whether you're an alcohol, whether you have a substance use disorder or an alcohol use disorder. You know, there's so much more knowledge out there, but it's like the traditional dogmatic AA and NA members don't even want to think about that. It's like some of the traditional Bible thumpers, you know, don't even try to think outside the box. So for me, you know, secular recovery is the only way to go. I can't do the God thing. And it's funny because my sponsor, bless her little heart, she was always trying to get me to find a higher power. And that just, I can't, you know, and it was very insulting when someone said, well, you can use a doorknob as your higher power. What the hell does that mean?
I know.
You know, a doorknob. I
Right.
mean, it's very insulting.
It is. It is. And I think
And
that, and I
even
know
the-
they're trying to
and
be
even,
helpful,
you
but
know,
no.
No, it doesn't work. It doesn't work. And even using the group as a higher power didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I still go to traditional AA meetings and usually get pissed off when I'm sitting there. But, you know, if they call on me, I'm very upfront about saying I don't have a God and I don't have a higher power in my understanding. What I have now is a higher purpose and an inner strength that I didn't have when I was in my addictions. But I have a secular recovery group here. I'm not trying to
No,
do whatever
please.
you want to call it, advertise. But well, we meet on Jitsi Meet, and a lot of people don't know what that is.
Okay.
On Thursday evenings at 7 here, and I can I post it on your site?
Please
Can I
do.
post it on
Yes.
the
Yes.
page?
Please do. So tell me,
Okay.
is it a secular AA group or is it just a secular recovery group in general?
Well, it's a secular recovery group. A lot of my members do not like to use the 12 steps, so
Okay.
I've gotten away from that.
Yeah,
I mean, I was
hear
using
you.
bastardized version of it,
Right.
but not everybody likes to use the 12 steps. So
Right.
we read from a book called Beyond Belief.
Oh,
and I
yeah.
forget who put that
Josie's book.
together.
Beyond
Yeah.
Belief, Agnostic Musings for
Right,
12 Step
right.
Life.
And-
Very popular book.
Right. Yes. And so we read the daily reading from that, and then we comment on it, and then we go around and discuss our weeks of how it's been. So anyway, that's what I do, and I'm so glad I started a secular recovery group because I believe that secular people deserve as much recovery as the deeply religious, as the whatever those fuckers are. I mean, I'm sorry, we deserve recovery, and that's all I have to say. And I sound as militant as John Huey. We would get along great. So anyway, have a good day, and I love your podcast. Thank you so much.
I'm
Bye.
in Missouri, not far from you. I might want to go down and visit your
I
group one
know,
of these days.
and I attend AA meetings online, and I frequently attend the whatever that's called in Missouri. What are they called?
Oh, we have the We Agnostics
I can't
meeting
think of
in
the name of
Kansas
that group.
City.
That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Yes.
Cool.
All right. So
Nice talking to you.
goodbye,
Thank you.
and thank you for letting me. Bye. Thank you.
Wonderful. Well, that was nice. Thank you again, Marianne. I really, Mary, I appreciate that. Okay, more comments here to go through here, and I haven't even gotten very far in the other parts of the culture here. But Mazzy says, "Isn't there a time when everyone should move on with their lives and celebrate other life achievements?" My answer to that is yes. It is absolutely. You know, not long ago we did a episode about what is recovery. I think it was what it was. I've been giving that a lot of thought lately, and one of the definitions of recovery is getting something back, right? And it occurred to me that if I'm in recovery, what is it that I got back? Or if you're new in recovery, what do you want to get back? And I think the whole purpose of recovery is to, grow and be the best person that you can be. And not drinking or using drugs could be part of what gets you there. But the real purpose of recovery is to be our best selves, I think. And anyway, so what do you want to recover? And I started thinking about that, and it took me a while, but I started recovering who I wanted to be, the idea of the person I wanted to be when I was growing up and couldn't be that because of my drinking. And that's what I recovered. I got the life that I thought I would have. I got that. And so I guess I recovered my dreams of what I would want my life to be. And I think it's a really important question is, what is your purpose in life? Is it just to not drink and drug? Or is there, do you have a purpose that helps you get to? And, what's important to you? What are your values? All those things are important. It's not just about not drinking. And so, I think there's a time to move on, and it's critical. I mean, if for me, I think my recovery is a process. And if I stop growing, even as a human being, I mean, that's another thing I think about. Recovery from addiction is just being a human being, aren't we all supposed to grow and learn? Okay. Moving on. This was fun doing this by myself. I did not think that I would be able to do this, but thank you, people out there. Thank you for listening and being your comments, because that helps me tremendously. So LaDon says, Mazzy, it is for some coming in, it can seem like a cult and religious, which is why outsiders think it's a religious program. I've had to tell many I'm a non-believer in religion. And welcome, Steve from Utah. And Bree, who I know from Kansas City, says that she likes part of my story. She says the hypocrisy that I rose up against when I shared being a non-believer, which progressed into secular recovery meetings in Kansas City, both face-to-face and Zoom-wise. Well, thank you for that. I mean, yeah, a thing about that though, Bree, too, is this is common in AA and maybe in other places. It's this reverence for how things came to be. It's this reverence for the past. It's this I guess interest in history, and I love history. I really, really, really do. But I don't know. It's like it's great that people founded this country, but they're gone now, and it's our responsibility to keep it going. And the same thing with an AA group. It was great that at one time I found a need to help get an AA meeting going, but it's the people that are there now that are keeping it going, and those are the real founders. You found a meeting by going to it and supporting it, and that's what's happening now. So yeah, it's interesting. I guess you can look back and say, yeah, I went through this period of time where things were getting rough for me as an atheist in AA. I mean, it truly was. I mean, it was kind of crazy there for a while. And I helped start an AA group, and I don't go to it anymore, as you know, but you guys do. So anyway, thank you for that, Bree. I know what you're saying. I think there is some value in remembering our history, but I wouldn't place too much emphasis on it. Jay Monty, I'm just kind of pulling up these comments. When I used to talk at step meetings, I get looked askew because I also have been in therapy for years, which I incorporate non-AA speak, and AA speak seems closed in within a set language parameter. Yeah. So a big part of the culture of 12-step programs is the language itself, the lingo that we use. And a lot of that comes, I think it all boils down to where it started in the 1930s when they wrote the book. Anyway, I kind of did away with that. Mary was talking about that. She said that people were telling her that she could have a different higher power. She could have like a doorknob and all this other stuff. It took me a long time, but I finally realized higher power? I never said higher power before I got in AA. What the hell is that? It's not the way I talk. I don't have a higher power. I don't need a higher power. The way that I actually talk is that there are other people in the world who have helped me in my life, and they're not a higher power. They're just other people who have helped me. And I don't need higher powers. I don't need that. Now, if other people do, that's great, but that's not my language. And I don't speak that way anymore, but it took me a long time to do that. When I first started on the secular journey in the 12 steps in a secular way, I thought I needed a higher power too. And it was going to be the group, or it was going to be principles and all this kind of stuff. But then after a while, I realized higher power. What is that? I don't talk that way. Who's talking that way? I don't anyway. I don't anymore anyway. So yeah, I think that's a big thing, is just using your own language. And maybe some people might not like it, but I think it's important. There are people that might be in the room who aren't familiar with the language and the lingo that is being used. And it might be nice for them to hear just plain English. And we alkies need to know we don't have to be a doormat. Be dominated by patriarchal dogma. I didn't even get into the patriarchy stuff, but I'm going to go ahead and read a little bit from this article, AA's Male Culture. And this is from Psychology Today. And anyway, I want to read this. This is kind of a difficult topic for me, I guess, to discuss because I am a male, and I might not properly understand where women are coming from. But I certainly get that the big book, when it was written, was really condescending towards women. It was condescending towards non-believers. And that's a problem, because that has never been corrected. The book is the same as it was then. It's still advising women to, be grateful that their husband is no longer having affairs and all this other crap. Anyway, it's nuts. It's nuts. And I think it has carried over, we haven't, as a culture, just generally in the United States of America and the world, it's pretty recent for women to advance in our society. We're still not there. Most CEOs are men. Most of the people in Congress are men. It's just, so we've got a long ways to go. But I think in the culture of 12-step fellowships, there's even further to go because they're stuck in that time when women didn't have jobs, didn't have credit, were subservient. So that's the world. So anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and read this. Here we go. So this post is based on the experiences of Juliet Abram, a person who recovered from alcoholism with help other than Alcoholics Anonymous, which she found hurt her. And this is what Juliet wrote. Our Father was recited at my very first AA meeting. My ears started bleeding. I'd quit going to Catholic Church to get away from the male-only God, male-only child Jesus, and male-only priest. As Mary Daly said, if God is male, then male is God. I decided that male dominance goes hand in glove with identifying the Almighty Creator as male. I believe both sexes absorb based spiritual language or biased spiritual language, consciously or subconsciously. I figured since AA was non-religious that it could drop God's gender as male, but no. AA refuses to castrate God, their God. Thus we read step 3 as the founding fathers intended, made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him. And it is a problem. And I mean, when the 12 steps were being developed, it was during a time when women were subservient, were treated as, I mean, they hadn't even been allowed to vote for very long. I mean, it was just, that was the cultural norm at the time. And these guys who were putting this stuff together, that's the world they knew. And so, unfortunately, if the culture is going to be growing from this book, which seems to be static in time, you're going to have this in meetings as well. So you've got 2 problems the way I see it. And believe me, I'm no intellectual. I haven't given this a lot of deep thought, but here's the deal. Okay, in my opinion. So you've got just the culture in general in the United States of America when it comes to equal rights, not being respected for women and minorities and others. It's been a white male dominated society since the beginning. So you have that problem. And, it's only been in recent years that has begun to change. So, people in my generation, for example, I remember when my mother got a job, for example, it was a big deal. Oh, mom has a job. Mom's going to work. It was like, oh, something new and unique. And that's me at that time. So it's not unique anymore. It's not unique anymore. So it's just like, so that's just one example. So I come from that world, and I bring that with me to meetings. And there are people who bring other biases like that to meetings from how they were raised growing up. And that can't help but impact the feel that you get in the room, especially if you have like this reverence for the old timers and you have this crusty old guy who has all the wisdom, that kind of thing. It's a problem, but it's a problem. It's a problem for men too, because if I really want to learn and grow, I need to listen to all kinds of people. And I'll tell you something interesting about my experience in recovery is for the first 25 years, I went to an all men's group. I was hearing nothing from women, when it came to recovery, except unless I went to some speaker meeting or some other group. So my experience with women in recovery was really limited until I helped start the secular AA meeting in Kansas City, and I started listening to women. And it was like a new experience for me. And I found myself valuing what they had to say because it wasn't anything that I heard before. And I know this sounds kind of weird, but that was where I was coming from. And I still value that and respect that to this day. And so anyway, that's where I'm coming on with that. But it's really hard for me to talk about patriarchy because I'm a guy, I guess. I wish Mary were here because she's really into that. Maybe we should have an episode all about patriarchy and let Mary talk about it. Anyway, that's my take on that. Okay. So let's come on down the line here. We've got Bree says that agrees with Bobbert. It tends to add depth and perspective. However, I do often get a bit queasy when I hear some people always include their tie in their shares. Oh my gosh, Steve from the UK is here. I don't get the anger towards those who have religious spiritual worldview take on 12-step recovery. Imagine if someone phoned up objecting and swearing angrily about secular non-believers in AA. But they do. They do. Believe me, they do. It would be intolerant and arrogant. Live and let live. It goes both ways. Now, I agree with you. And again, I really didn't want this to be about bashing any particular program at all, because I don't. And I do support people that have religious views to leverage that in their recovery. I think it's really important that everybody find their own path. And I do agree with you too, Steve. It doesn't really serve any purpose to be angry towards anyone who is religious or spiritual at all. And when it comes to the language of recovery, I consider myself bilingual, so I can speak spiritually or non-spiritually, whatever, and I can traverse those two worlds. But I get what you're saying. And, I've recently done some episodes where I got some criticism for that, a little bit too much anti this or anti that. And that's really not me, honestly, Steve. I really think that I just respect everybody's path, and I'm not here to criticize anyone, but we are criticizing the culture of the 12 steps of 12-step fellowships, because maybe there is something to criticize there, and that's okay. If we didn't take a critical look at these things, then nothing would ever change, So anyway, that's what we're doing here. Not really bashing it. If you like God and all that, and you need God and it helps you in your recovery, I think that's wonderful, and I support you in that. But yes, believe me, I've been on the receiving end of religious people who think I'm terrible. So anyway, on down the line. Okay, there we go. So I think that covered all the comments, and we've got 46 minutes into this without Mary. That's amazing. So anyway, I'm not going to go too much more into that patriarchy thing, simply because I have a really hard time understanding it. But there are some good comments here. Missy, everyone is affected by the patriarchy. I find it alive and well in AA. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you, Missy. I don't know if I did a very good job with it, but I know it's a problem. I know it's a problem for everybody, men, women alike. And it's just something, it's good to be aware of. It's good that I'm aware of it and trying to learn about it. And so there. And Dale, I love this comment, because I agree. Men's meetings are awful. The testosterone is so thick, it's quite disturbing. Oh my God. You are so right. It's weird. I had a really weird experience, Dale, with this men's group. In one sense, it was good, because I was in my 20s, and like I said, I ran around a bunch of other guys in their 20s, and I was able to form real friendships with men that were more meaningful than anything I had before, where we were able to talk about real life stuff, So in that sense, it was really good for me. I was able to bond with other guys, and that was very helpful for me. But that was stuff that was going on outside the meetings. Okay, so like when we'd go to lunch or we'd hang out and go to meetings, that was the value that I was getting, was from that kind of interaction with these guys. It was the social aspect with people in my own age group, all right, that was helpful to me. But you are so right about the meetings itself. The group that I went to could be very boisterous, and and there's a lot of preening, there's a lot of ego. There was a lot of stuff, a lot of extraneous stuff that really wasn't helpful. And so I agree with you on that, Dale. The meeting itself sometimes could be a little bit too thick with the macho stuff, for sure. Absolutely. Oh boy, steps say God as we understood him. No wonder people walk away. Yes, that's true. God as we understand him. I didn't really understand. I didn't want to understand God, but I somehow fell along the line. Oh boy, so many great comments. Bernie says, great show, John. I seem to be recovering more from the religious overload of AA than alcohol at this point. You got me on the right track. Well, I'm glad I could help. If I'm helping you, it's only because what I've learned from other people, that's for sure. But I'm glad that you've enjoyed the show. Joe Bob. Okay, Joe Bob. Joe Bob says, I never understood how the bashing of God, of religion, of traditional AA members advances one's binary abstinence. It's also inconsistent with tradition one. Well, again, is it possible to be critical of something without being accused of bashing it? I mean, can't I say that can we acknowledge that there's a culture within 12-step fellowships? And can we ask ourselves the question, is this sometimes problematic? And if it is problematic, in what ways is it problematic? And that's what we're talking about here today. We're not bashing AA altogether or people who believe in spiritual modes of recovery. I'm not bashing that at all. I support that 100%. But what I'm talking about is the culture of 12-step fellowships. For example, when this woman was told that she's not speaking OA language, isn't that a problem? And is it okay to talk about that without seeming to be one who bashes that? Okay, so yeah, I understand that there are people for whom it's great to have this sense of community by having a common culture and language, but it can be a problem if we're insisting that everybody join in on that. And it could be a problem when that becomes kind of like a clique that's kind of hard to break through. So that's what we're talking about. Again, not bashing. I'm not bashing, but I think it's okay. I think it's okay to talk about things and to be critical at times. But again, not in a way that's bashing. If I love AA. I mean, I got sober in AA. I still go to AA meetings every once in a while. I don't have a problem with AA. I even go to traditional meetings. I listen to people talk about God. It's okay. I don't really care. Anyway. Oh, enough said on that, Joe Bob. So Mazzy says, I was born into Catholicism. I don't have that belief since childhood. And that's another thing, a lot of people have been damaged by religion too. And that can be, triggering when you go to AA and have to say the Our Father and all that kind of stuff. Okay, I'm going to read Mary's comment. This is a good comment. The chapter to wives is so hard to listen to when it's read in big book meetings. Most of my group is well aware of that, so I can be honest about it and do frequently eye rolls. To be honest too, Mary, I think that's pretty common. I think even when there's a lot of women in AA. When I was going to the district meetings and area assemblies and so forth, there was a general acknowledgement that there's a lot of sexist language, in the big book, and that the chapter to the wives, which was actually written by Bill Wilson, is pretty much BS. I mean, there's a lot of acknowledgement about that, but it's a shame that service structure who acknowledges that and will actually change language in their pamphlets that nobody reads, won't make these changes in their primary literature. Anyway, that's just my opinion. All right. Marianne says, I'm not angry, but insisting on having God as we understand him is nonsense, and traditionalists come up. Yeah, I get that. I mean, I'm not angry either. I'm totally not angry. I had talk about, bashing and attacking people and stuff. I'll never forget this memory of being in my traditional group at the end of the meeting when they stood up to say the Lord's Prayer. And this is at a time when I made the difficult step of acknowledging to the group that I was an atheist. And there was this one guy. I stood up respectfully as they said the Lord's Prayer, but I didn't recite the prayer. And there's this one guy who just gave me a look like I was Satan. He just gave me the most menacing, threatening look that was unmistakably intended to make it clear that I wasn't welcome there. And, people can do that without actually talking. They can let you know that you're not welcome there. This guy did that. And I should have gone over there and asked him what his problem was or confronted him or something, but I didn't. I just left. So, this stuff happens. It's happened to me, and that's not the only time either that I've had criticism thrown at me from someone who believes. I remember one time sharing about my secular view of recovery, and someone said, well, I hope that atheist stuff works for you. So yeah, I've been insulted and badgered and harassed by believers in meetings. And that's why I left and stopped going to those meetings. It took me time to recover from that. and I can now attend a traditional AA meeting. I can listen to all the God stuff, and it doesn't trigger me so much. But yeah, believe me, I've been through that. I've been through that. I've seen it. So, you know, if I'm critical of this stuff, believe me, I've had a lot of criticism thrown at me simply for being who I was. So there. Sorry about that. Bobbert. I like being accused of psychobabble. Yes, I've heard that a lot. If you don't actually speak the way, it is fun to be critical, I have to say. Okay, don't read this. Oh, don't read this. But sober 2 years next week. I'm sorry, I read it. I put it up there for everybody. Well, congratulations on 2 years of sobriety. 2 years of sobriety. I think that's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. All right. LaDon says, when and if I go, I stand out of respect, but I don't recite it. I have been questioned about it too. So see, LaDon also has had that experience where she doesn't join in the prayer and people question her about it, you know, and make her feel uncomfortable about it. And it's not right. It's totally not right. So LaDon, by the way, her episode will be posted this Wednesday. I took a break. I took an unintended break in August because stuff went on in my life, and I needed a break. And you know, I was really hoping that 2022 would be the year that I never missed a week of posting an episode, but August happened to me, and I had to stop. Okay. More comments that I'm going to go through before we wind up here. And thank you so much for these comments. Your comments made this possible. If you weren't participating, and as you are, I would just be here like, what do I say? I'm going to read this article and then what I do. Okay. And I'm throwing these comments up without previewing them. So Lord knows what this person's going to say. Okay. The culture problem I have is the same I have with many fundamentalist religions. The Tennessee Christian College has a core value of divine inspiration and infallibility of the Bible. Much of AA has the same inaccurate delusion perspective about the big book and the 12 steps. Yes, I agree with that. AA found a wonderful, inspiring approach to recovery, but it was not perfect and infallible. Yes, thank you for mentioning that. There's great things about AA. And I guess to balance things out, we need to say that, you know, that AA has, you know, they started, you know, there were movements that came before AA, but one of the strengths of AA, as I see it, is the freedom it gives individuals and groups to do whatever the hell they want to do. Now, maybe there are particular individuals that might not respect that, but that is AA. You can do whatever you want to with your AA group. You can have your recovery however you want to. So thank you for mentioning that. There are some good things to say about it. Hell, I still go to AA meetings. I'm not critical. Okay. Diana, ritual and common language, revered elders, insider jokes, etc., make the members feel safe. Interesting. It does. It does give you that sense of belonging, doesn't it? That you're on the inside. Like they say, are in a group. I get that. I get it too. But for a free thinker newcomer, it's very off-putting. And some of us already struggle with an outsider insecurity, which makes the ritual and language stuff even more intimidating. Yikes, like the Rocky Horror Picture Show. Work, 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 shout outs. Not everyone will know what I mean by that. And I don't either. Although I have watched the Rocky Horror Picture Show. It's been a long time. I should watch it again so I can get that reference. But anyway, thank you, Diana. I do appreciate that so much. That was a great comment. And I agree. On one hand, you're like in the inside crowd. You have a community, you have a common language, and that makes you feel safe and secure. But if you're new to that, you have the problem of being the new kid in school, right? Where you have to figure out, how do I break into this? And that's really what I was intending this episode to be all about is, you know, when is the culture a problem? And should we be aware of it? Maybe not just in AA meetings, but any type of meeting that we have. Should we be aware of some of our lingo that we use in recovery circles for someone who's new to recovery, and maybe kind of drop that a little bit to be a little bit more inclusive? So anyway, oh Lordy. And, you know, Joe Bob, I'm going to learn more about LifeRing, but they are very, they do emphasize secularity quite a bit. And I like that. So anyway, Joe Bob attends those meetings, it looks like, and maybe I'll run into you in one of them, or you can send me a link to a meeting that you attend, and I'll go to it. So I guess that's about it. We're out of time. So thank you once again for participating in this live stream. I'm really grateful that you do that. I'm really grateful for the podcast itself and for all of you who listen and support it. It's just been everything to me. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and play our disco music. Mary, I can't wait to have you back. And that's it for another live stream. Thank you all for joining. Hope that it was a good one. Hope it gave you all something to think about. Y'all take care now. We'll be back again next week. Bye-bye.